Hi guys, welcome back to second part of dermatology. I hope you guys have revised your basics in dermatology. So let's move on with the diseases now, okay? So the first thing that we're going to discuss are the papillosquamous diseases. First, let us understand what papillosquamous exactly means, okay? So if there is a solid raised lesion which is less than 1 centimeter, we will call that as a papule, okay? If it's less than 1 centimeter, we will call that as a papule, sorry. Okay, and if it is a solid raised lesion which is more than 1 centimeter, we will call that as a plaque. Okay, and if there is a visible exfoliation of your stratum corneum, since we revised that yesterday in part 1, stratum corneum is the first layer of your epidermis, right? So if there is a visible exfoliation, that will be called as scales. So now let us understand. Papulo means a solid raised lesion, okay? Squamous means what? Squama scales basically also mean as squama. Okay, so that means scales. Okay, so understood what papillosquamous exactly means. Okay, so first let's look into psoriasis. Okay, so now if you will ask me what exactly psoriasis is, okay, psoriasis is something that is chronic for a long time. It is going to be inflammatory in nature, and one more thing guys, it is going to be a T cell mediated disease, not only of the skin but also of the systems. Okay, skin as well as of the systems. Okay, let us move on to the etiology. Why does it exactly happen? So there are these genetic factors that are related to it. The most important one that you guys have to remember is HLA-CW6 and one more, that is HLA-B27. Guys, this was a PYQ of my FMG which I gave in Jan 2024, that what all are the diseases that are associated with HLA-B27. Okay, the first thing we already know, it is going to be a psoriatic arthritis. Okay, psoriatic arthritis, your Retiers disease, okay, your Retiers disease, your ankylosing spondylitis, okay, and your inflammatory bowel disease. Okay, so these are the diseases that are associated with what? HLA-B27. Okay, this is also a PYQ. Now let us look into the environmental factors. So guys, most of us have experienced that during winters our skin gets really dry. So it is same thing with psoriasis. Patients who have psoriasis during winters, their lesions increase. It is during winters. Okay, and what are the infections that is associated with psoriasis? That is going to be a group A beta hemolytic streptococci. Okay, streptococci. Okay, and next let us move on to the drugs. Okay, so now these are very common drugs that you hear left and right. Okay, first we will start with our lithium. Okay, lithium also could cause psoriasis. Okay, beta blockers, antimalarials, your NSAIDs, and guys, one more very important, it is going to be systemic steroids. Okay, it is going to be systemic steroids, and one more thing that you need to know, it is due to sudden stoppage. If you suddenly ask the patient to stop your systemic steroids, that is when your psoriasis can get aggravated. Okay, sudden stoppage. Now guys, let us move on to the pathogenesis. Okay, why does psoriasis exactly happen? So you guys remember yesterday we spoke about epidermis, dermis and everything else, right? So what happens in the epidermis of a patient who has psoriasis? Okay, there will be what? There will be hyperproliferation. Okay, in patients with psoriasis. Guys, remember we spoke about epidermal transit time yesterday. That is the time taken for your stratum basale to change into stratum corneum. Normal is 4 weeks. I mentioned over there that patient who has psoriasis, their epidermal transit time decreases to 3 to 5 days. Okay, there will be a decrease to how much? It will only take 3 to 5 days. That is why patients will come with hyperproliferation. Understood? Understand everything. Okay, and next let us talk about the dermis. What happens in the dermis? In the dermis there will be inflammation. And what are the pro-inflammatory cytokines? You will know that there is tumor necrosis factor alpha, there is interleukin 17 and interleukin 23. These are going to be a pro-inflammatory cytokines. Okay, these are going to be pro-inflammatory cytokines. Okay, So now let us move on. Let us look at the different clinical type of psoriasis. Let us move on with the first and most common one, that is going to be a chronic plaque psoriasis, which is also called as psoriasis vulgaris. I already mentioned what vulgaris means. Vulgaris means most common form, right? Most common form is going to be a psoriasis vulgaris. Vulgaris means most common, right? So now let us talk about the lesion over here. There is a diagram over here. Let us look at let us not rutto, let's not mug it up. Let us look and understand and talk more about the lesion. Okay, so we can see that these are going to be red. You can see that they're going to be scaly, right? You can see this white patches is going to be scaly, right? And I mentioned earlier what solid lesions less than 1 centimeter are going to be called as, they're going to be called as papules, right? They're going to be called as papules, and the lesions that are more than 1 centimeter, they're going to be called as plaques. They're going to be called as plaques. So we can see over here these small lesions are basically your papules, and the big ones are called as your plaques. More than 1 centimeter are your plaques. Okay, so let us write this down as well. These lesions, as we saw earlier, they're going to be red, they're going to be scaly in nature, they are going to have multiple papules and plaques. Okay, multiple papules and plaques. Okay, and if they will talk about the scales, very peculiar guys, meaning if you see this particular word in your PYQ, just mark psoriasis, they are going to give you silvery white scales. Okay, silvery white scales will be present. They will tell you there will be a 23-year-old who has excessive exaggeration of the lesions during winter, and they will be present as silvery white scales. Just close your eyes and mark psoriasis. Okay, now guys, distribution. Where is the distribution? The distribution is going to be on the extensor surface. This patient will come on the extensor surfaces. They will come with their lesion, with the psoriatic lesions. Okay guys, see the lesion once again. Now let's move on to the features. Okay, the first feature that we will be talking about is Auspitz sign. What is basically Auspitz sign? That I will take a glass slide and I will scrape it over the lesion, over the psoriatic lesion. Okay, so if I take a glass slide and I scrape it over the psoriatic lesion, what is that called? That is called as a Grattage test. It's called as a Grattage test. Grattage means basically to scrape or scratch something is what we call as grattage. Like, you know, when you grate something, right? So that is a grattage test. Okay, so now on observations, what I'll be able to see is, first I will see the scales, right? The scales will come off. Then I will see this membrane. This membrane is going to be a bulky membrane. It's going to be a bulky membrane. Then when I scrape that membrane as well, I will see pinpoint bleeding. What will I see? I will see pinpoint bleeding. Okay, so I have kept a picture over here. This is an Auspitz sign, right? You can see this pinpoint bleeding on scraping. First I'll remove the scales, then I'll remove the membrane, then I will see this pinpoint bleeding. Okay, and what is this test called as? This is the sign called as, this is called as Auspitz sign. Okay, next let's move on to Cobnus phenomenon. Cobnus phenomenon synonym is also called as isomorphic. Okay, isomorphic. What does isomorphic basically mean? Isomorphic means similar lesions. What does it basically say? That meaning it's an isomorphic response, right? It's an isomorphic response. So what it basically Cobnus is, that if I make a line of trauma over my normal skin, if I make a line of trauma, I will have lesions along that line of trauma, right? If I take this scale and right now I make a line, okay, along this line of trauma over my normal skin, I will see lesions. Okay, that is what Cobnus is. Appearance of morphologically similar lesions along the line of trauma over normal skin is called as Cobnus. That is why it is also called as isomorphic response. Iso means same, right? Now let us differentiate between what is a true Cobnus and what is a pseudo Cobnus. First let us understand true Cobnus. Why does it happen? True Cobnus is basically immunological. True Cobnus is immunological, okay, due to your immunity, right? And how will I remember what all lesions will show me true Cobnus? I will remember it with the mnemonic VPL, that is vitiligo, psoriasis and lichen planus. Okay, so these are the three lesions that will show me true Cobnus phenomena. Now what is pseudo Cobnus? Okay, pseudo Cobnus is due to auto inoculation. So now when I say auto inoculation, what is the first thing that will strike your mind? That is going to be what? Warts, right? You will see warts, they keep on growing here and there anywhere. Because why? Because they auto inoculate, right? Auto inoculation. Okay, so first is going to be your warts, right? First is going to be wasp. Next is your molluscum contagiosum. The name contagiosum itself says that is contagious, right? So that is why they will also show you pseudococcus phenomena. They will show you pseudococcus phenomena, that is molluscum contagiosum. Okay, so this is a picture of your Koebner's. Okay, see, along the line of trauma I can see multiple lesions. Okay, along the line of trauma over a normal skin I will see multiple lesions, similar looking lesions. Okay, that is Koebner's. Now guys, let us move on to the nail findings of patients who have psoriasis. The first that I will be talking about are going to be your nail pits. Okay, first let us understand what is a nail, guys. Okay, a lot of people, they keep getting confused. What you need to know is, now see, this is going to be your nail plate. This is your nail plate over which your nail plate is resting is called as a nail bed. You generally rest over your bed, right? So your nail plate is resting over your nail bed. Okay, so if this is your nail plate, this is your nail bed. Okay, so this is your nail plate, this is your nail bed. Okay, so now what I'll be seeing is, I will first see the superficial layer I can see is my nail plate. Okay, first let me just tell you what I see over here, right? We can see that there are multiple depressions. Where? Multiple depressions over your nail plate. Multiple depressions over your nail plate. We can see, right, multiple depressions over your nail plate. Now what type is it? Okay, just guys, there's nothing to write. You can clearly see, is this regular or irregular? You can see they are irregular, they have no pattern, right? There are just pits everywhere, so they're going to be irregular. And these are coarse, it's happening everywhere, right? These are going to be everywhere. These are coarse. And guys, one more thing, they are deep pits. Okay, they are deep pits. Okay, so let us look at the image one more time. Okay, so you can see that these are going to be coarse, they're going to be deep in nature, and they're going to be irregular, they're happening anywhere, right? So that is your nail pits. Now you'll ask me, why am I talking about this? What is the importance? The importance is, guys, this is the most common nail change in a patient with psoriasis. Most common nail change in patient with psoriasis. Okay guys, so that is your nail pits. Okay, that is your nail pits. That is the first thing. Now let us understand what is a subungual hyperkeratosis. Okay, now again guys, we can see the superficial, this is your nail plate, over what it's resting is called as a nail bed, and over here I can see this hyperproliferation going on, right? This is my hyperproliferation. This is hyperproliferation. Okay, this is hyperproliferation. Okay, next is your distal oncolysis. Okay, what does lysis mean? Lysis means separation, right? So that is why what it basically means is, when my nail plate has separated from my nail bed. Okay, my nail plate has separated from my nail bed, that is called as distal oncolysis. Sorry. Okay, now guys, let's talk about our oil drop sign or salmon patch. Okay, oil drop sign or salmon patch. What is the color? I can see it is going to be yellow pink, right? I can see this. So this is your salmon patch. You can see this is your salmon patch, right? It is going to be yellow pink in color. It's going to be yellow pink on color. And guys, what you need to know, important, this is not on the nail plate. You can see your nail plate is normal. This is seen on your nail bed. Okay, this is a pathology. It is seen on your nail bed. It is seen on your nail bed. Okay, and why do I need to know this? I need to know this because this is a pathognomic feature. This is pathognomic. Okay, this is going to be this is going to be pathognomic to psoriatic patients. Okay, to psoriasis. This is pathognomic to psoriasis, nail psoriasis. Okay, so that this is your oil drop sign or salmon patch. Now guys, tell me, let us move into a little off the, okay, where do you see oil drop cataract? You will see oil drop cataract in a patient with galactosemia. Okay, this is seen in galactosemia. Okay guys, remember, correlate. Oil drop cataract is seen in a patient with galactosemia. Okay, so now let us move on to the second type of psoriasis. Okay, we're done with chronic psoriasis, or also called as psoriasis vulgaris. Now let us move on to our guttate psoriasis. Guttate. First, let us understand what does guttate mean. Guttate means raindrop like. Guttate means raindrop like. That is your guttate psoriasis. Now what triggers this? Guys, remember there was an infection that I mentioned earlier. Your group A beta hemolytic streptococci, right? Your streptococci. Now what does this group A beta hemolytic do is, it causes what? It causes pharyngitis. It causes pharyngitis. In the age group, what age group? Who do you see? Who keeps on doing this? Who? Children, right? So this will cause it in children, in a child. Okay, so the trigger is going to be group A, beta hemolytic streptococci. For gutted psoriasis, age group is going to be a child. And now side, guys, look at this image. You can see on the trunk, you will see what is it, what is the side? It is going to be on your trunk. Understood, guys? So this is your gutted psoriasis. Okay, now let us move on to our pustular psoriasis. Pustular psoriasis. Now when very some in the question will come lakes or sheets of pus. Okay, what is it? It will be called as lakes or sheets. So guys, remember, okay, silvery white scales will come. What will you mark? You'll mark chronic psoriasis. You will say raindrop like appearance. You will mark gutted psoriasis. Now sheet or lakes of pus. Okay, you can see in this image over here, see there are these lakes, okay, sheets of pus, so much pus right at one place. It's going to be like lake or sheets of pus. This is going to be a catching thing in the question for your pustular psoriasis. Now what triggers this? Remember we mentioned those drugs, and in those drugs we mentioned one thing, sudden stoppage of systemic steroids. That is what triggers this. Okay, sudden stoppage of systemic steroids. Sudden stoppage of systemic steroids will trigger this. Okay, and if they'll ask you what is the acute generalized form, what is the acute generalized form? The acute generalized form is called as your von Zumbusch type. Okay, your von Zumbusch type is going to be the acute generalized form of pustular psoriasis. And if guys, if they'll ask you what is pustular psoriasis in pregnancy called as, it is called as impetigo herpetiformis. Impetigo herpetiformis. Guys, this is a misnomer. Impetigo is that generally it has something to do with bacterial, right? And herpetiformis has something to do with viral. But this is a misnomer. It has nothing to do with any of them. This is just a pustular psoriasis in pregnancy. Understood? Now let us move on to the next. Let us move on to erythrodermic psoriasis. Let us break down the word. What does erythro mean? Erythro means red, right? Derma means what? Skin. Exfoliative means what? Scales. It means red skin scales. Okay, so we have understood what erythrodermic psoriasis means. Now, what is a peculiarity with this is that, see, more than 90% of your body surface area should have erythema. It should have erythema plus minus scaling. Okay, it should have erythema plus minus scaling. Remember, you cannot just see it has a patch and oh, this is erythrodermic psoriasis. No, more than 90% of your body surface should be involved. Okay, now let us talk about psoriatic arthritis. Okay, if they will ask you guys what is the classical joint in psoriatic arthritis, it is going to be your distal interphalangeal joint, not your proximal. It is going to be your distal interphalangeal joint. Okay, it is going to be a distal interphalangeal joint. And if they'll ask you on X-ray, what you can see on X-ray, you will see this very peculiar pencil in cup appearance. You will see this pencil in cup appearance. Okay, so you guys can see this, right? This is your pencil and this is your cup. Okay, you will see this pencil in cup appearance. Pencil in cup appearance on X-ray. That is basically when the proximal bone is tapering into the distal bone. Okay, your proximal bone, it tapers. Okay, it's tapering into your distal bone. Okay, into distal bone. Okay, that is your X-ray appearance in psoriatic arthritis. Understood? Now guys, let us move on to the histopath of psoriasis. What is exactly happening in there, right? So you guys remember the layers of your epidermis, your stratum corneum, then obviously we're talking, then your stratum, this is your stratum granulosum, then your spinosum, then your basal, right? Let us see what is happening in your stratum corneum. First, what you will see, hyperkeratosis. Obviously we understood that in the epidermis there is hyperproliferation that is taking place. Understood? Guys, you remember what was that? If in the stratum corneum there is retention of nucleus, what is it called as? It is called as parakeratosis. Very good. It is called as parakeratosis. That means retention of nucleus in your stratum corneum. Now guys, what is this? This is your neutrophils. Okay, if there is your collection of your neutrophils in your stratum corneum, this is called as your Monro's abscess. It's called as your Monro's abscess. It's called as your Monro's abscess. Your Monro's micro, sorry, my bad. Your Monro's micro abscess. Okay, it's called as a Monro's micro Abscess. This is a PYQ, guys. Don't screw this up. This is very basic. Monro's micro abscess. Okay. Now what happens in your stratum granulosum? Not much. It is either absent or it has decreased. It is either absent or it has decreased. Okay. Next, what happens in a stratum spinosum? Acanthosis. What was acanthosis? We studied this yesterday. Acantha means what? Spine. Thosis means what? Proliferation, thickening of your stratum spinosum is acanthosis. Now over here also I see this collection of my neutrophils, right? This is called as spongiform pustule of Kugog. It is called as spongiform pustule of Kugog. This is seen in your stratum spinosum. Okay, seen in stratum spinosum. Okay, now what happens in your stratum basale? Do you remember, guys, this rete ridges? What were rete ridges? Rete ridges were your depressions and dermal papillae were your elevations. Your rete ridges, they have elongated. Your rete ridges, they have elongation. Okay, rete ridges have elongated. But what happens in your dermal papilla? In your dermal papilla, there are these blood vessels. These blood vessels have dilated. That is why, guys, you remember when I scrape the lesion and I remove the membrane, I will see pinpoint bleeding. Why is that pinpoint bleeding happening? It is happening because of this, that in your dermal papilla there are dilated blood vessels. This is what is causing pinpoint bleeding. Understood? So that's why I told you guys, I don't have to rectify or mug up anything. Just understand, guys. Okay, understand and enjoy. Okay, now guys, this is we are done with our histopath. Let us move on to the treatment options. What are the treatment options that you see in psoriasis? Now see, let us first start with the topical therapy in psoriasis. The first one, if I want to reduce my scaling, if you're having dryness, what do? You will take a moisturizer and you will start rubbing it on your skin. So what is a moisturizer called as? Your moisturizer is called as an emollient. Your moisturizer is called as an emollient. For anti-inflammatory, what will I do? I'm talking about topical therapy, right? So I will give topical steroids. I'll give topical steroids. Now this, guys, is a question. What will I do to reduce the epidermal hyperproliferation? To reduce the epidermal hyperproliferation, I'll be giving cold tar dithenol. I'll be giving cold tar dithenol. Okay, so these are your topical therapy in psoriasis. Now guys, let us move on to the option B. If topical doesn't work, what else will I do? I can do phototherapy. Okay, I can do phototherapy. Now what is NB? NB is basically narrow band, right? NB is narrow band ultraviolet B, right? NB is your narrow band, right? So now what is the wavelength over here that I'll be using? The wavelength I'll be using over here is going to be 311 plus minus 2 nanometer. Plus minus 2 nanometer is going to be the wavelength of phototherapy that I'll be giving to this patient over here. Okay, or what else I can do? What else can I do? I can give Soralin. Okay, this is my option number A, that is narrowband UVB, or I can give PUVA. P stands for Soralin. Why am I giving Soralin over here? Is because Soralin is a photosensitizer. Soralin is a photosensitizer. Okay, and what is going to be the wavelength over here? The wavelength over here is going to be 320 to 400 nanometer for my phototherapy. Understood? So we are done with our topical therapy, we're done with our phototherapy. Now guys, let us move on to the systemic therapy in psoriasis. Okay, in systemic therapy, what all are the options I have? First, drug of choice, methotrexate. Okay, what is the mode of action? If they'll ask you, the mode of action is going to be dihydrofolate reductase. It is a dihydrofolate reductase. Okay, this is important, guys. It is a dihydrofolate reductase. Now if you will ask me, what is the side effect of methotrexate, right? This is a very common question that they'll keep on asking you. The side effect is going to be, this can cause bone marrow suppression. Okay, it can cause bone marrow suppression. It can cause hepatotoxicity. It can cause hepatotoxicity. It is also teratogenic. Okay, what teratogenicity it can cause means I cannot give it to a pregnant lady. Why? It can cause neural tube defect. Or else what can it cause? It can also cause cleft palate. Okay, so my drug of choice, that is methotrexate. What is the mode of action? The mode of action, it is dihydrofolate reductase. Okay, and if they'll ask you what is my side effect, it will cause bone marrow suppression, hepatotoxicity, and it is teratogenic. So I will not give it to a pregnant lady, right? Next is my acitretin. Tretin, I've said, what does it what comes in your head, right? It comes that it is a retinoid, that it is an oral retinoid. Okay, it is an oral retinoid, means it is a vitamin A-like drug, है ना? It is a vitamin A-like drug, okay? And what are the side effects of this drug, okay, of a retinoid? What does it cause? It will, first of all, we already know that we don't give retinoids to pregnant patients, right? So means that it can cause, it is teratogenic, it is teratogenic, it is teratogenic, and also guys, it can cause hyperlipidemia. It can cause hyperlipidemia. Okay, now guys, let us move on to your cyclosporin. Okay, so guys, if they'll ask you what is the mode of action of your cyclosporin? Cyclosporin, it inhibits your calcineurin. It inhibits your it rhymes like cyclosporin, calcineurin, right? So remember it like that, okay? Calcineurin, okay? Cyclosporin, what is the MOA? If they'll ask you mode of action of my cyclosporin, that is going to be calcineurin, okay? And what are the side effects of this again? The side effects of this, it is going to be remember, nephrotoxic. It is going to be nephrotoxic in nature, and also it can cause hypertension as well, okay? It can also cause hypertension. So nephrotoxic and hypertension. What was hepatotoxic? Hepatotoxic was methotrexate. Hepatotoxic was your methotrexate, okay? Don't get confused. Next guys, systemic steroids, okay? See, now I said earlier that systemic steroids, it is a drug that increases psoriasis. Why will I give it to my patient? I will give it to my patient only on 2 indications, okay? The only on one indication, the only indication that I will give my patient systemic steroids is pustular psoriasis or pregnancy. Because guys, we studied earlier, right? See, methotrexate, teratogenic, acitretin, teratogenic, okay, cyclosporin, hypertension. Why do you want a mother to go through all of that, right? So my first drug of choice, okay, my first drug of choice in a patient with pustular psoriasis, I will write it over here, pustular psoriasis in pregnancy. If they will ask you, if they give you in the option, first thing you will mark is the first drug of choice is going to be your systemic steroid. It is going to be a systemic steroid. What is the second drug, guys, that did not have any teratogenic effect that we studied just now? That was your cyclosporin. Okay, that was your cyclosporin. So if in the option